Hi, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation today on topic selection for novice researchers in translation studies from an educational research perspective. My name is Mansour Amini from the School of Languages, Literacies and Translation, University of Science, Malaysia. This presentation is basically extracted from a paper that I've written and submitted to the conference, and hopefully it will be published soon. So the three major sections that I've divided this presentation into is about the general consideration in doing any kind of research in social sciences, humanities, education, and language studies, including translation as well as some considerations or important points in conducting uh, research in the scope or disciplines of translation and interpreting, particularly. And finally, I'll provide some tips to make our translation research more impactful. That means we go for the topics that are more impactful, and we try to polish our ideas and topics as much as possible to make it more significant. So I'll also provide some references at the end of this session. So the first part of consideration, as I said, the general ones, will be about taking into account the importance of philosophy and the link that the philosophy or the worldview of our research and basically where we come from uh, in terms of selecting the methodology, the design, and as well as linking it to our worldviews is really important, right? So next, in terms of identifying the research problem or the gap and justifying its importance. It's important for us in translation studies research, likewise in any kind of academic research, to justify why the problem is so important or why the missing literature is really important to be filled with our study. Uh, basically, and technically, for such important gap to be found, of such important problem to be found, we need to rely on important sources, reliable sources, valid sources, and we can always refine our topics as well as we go along, especially in qualitative research, as you know. Here are some of the topics and the types of, uh, I would say, research that we could do in translation studies. This could give some ideas to the novice researchers, such as comparison of source text and target text, comparative studies focusing on translation and non-translations, studies focusing on expectations versus assessment, such as those of quality assessment, media translation, language teaching and translation theories, translation and technology, translation history, policy, cultural translation, literary translation, translation process, translation strategies, translator training, or translator competence, right? As well as theory production and theory verification. That means examination of a theory. And at the end, the studies that could focus on interpreting per se, right? Whether it's different types of interpreting or something specific in interpreting. So, likewise, I would like to highlight the importance of the types of variables in translation studies because these are often mistaken uh, based on my observations. So interdisciplinarity in translation is the other point that I will briefly explain uh, its significance and how it can contribute to the significance of our research in translation. And finally, the impact and the role of SDGs and technology. Uh, Another important point for me is to highlight the designing or developing or validating tools, instruments, and models, modules, guidelines, instructions, activities, materials, syllabi, and curriculum. That means looking at translation from an educational perspective. What can we do to help improve the training of the translators and interpreters, right? What tools can be designed? What, let's say, instruments uh, can we develop or construct or at least validate the current ones and suggest some improvements in those tools and instructions. Finally, here the importance of interdisciplinarity, we are often criticized in translation studies for having somehow insignificant or less significant research compared to other social science or even educational research, right? Or language studies research. So what I'm trying to suggest here is that we try to link between the disciplines. We try to connect these disciplines. We go across or beyond uh, two or three or more disciplines to, I would say, increase the level of significance. In terms of impact, I cannot emphasize the Sustainable Development Goals importance enough, especially the SDG 4, which is quality education, because as we know, there is always an education component to any kind of field or discipline, right? Any kind. So likewise, in translation, we could focus more on this. That means how could translation contribute to this quality education? And another point is about technology. Obviously, any kind of research in translation that could contribute to technology or any technology that could contribute to translation is a very good subject or topic for a study. And the last point will be about industrial revolution. As we know, previously in IF 4.0, the focus were on digitalization, right? Technology, digitalization, and all that. So now we are moving towards humanization of this technology. That means giving it back to the human. So what role translation can play in this regard, and what kind of contributions translation can make in this regard? I believe that this could be a very good topic for translation researchers as well. So finally, my final point here will be emphasizing interdisciplinary research, the theoretical and practical and significant implications that translation researchers need to consider about their research and about their research question, right? Because we can somehow estimate at least what would be the potential implications of this research. I believe the more we can link our translation research to industry, education, and technology, the more significant our findings will be, and the more impactful research at the end we can claim that we have accomplished. And these are my references for this presentation, and thank you very much.